Now, Chinese manufacturers and influencers are flooding TikTok with videos asking consumers to buy high-end luxury brands from them directly amid US President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs. Dozens of videos on the app allege that items from luxury brands are originally made in Chinese factories at minimal costs, then shipped to the United States or other places where they're then labeled and then sold at inflated prices. Let's find out how true this is and ultimately get a sense of the lay of the land. Let's speak to Michael Zachary from Luxa TV. And Michael, thank you so much for the time. An interesting topic amidst everything that's going on in the world right now. Just bring some truth in for us here. Help us explain exactly what is going on. Is this ultimately true? All manufactured in China and then brought to respective areas, whether it be in Europe or the United States, and then that markup made 1,000, 2,000% almost.
Yeah, what I think we're seeing is that, these Chinese companies and many influencers, going all the way back down to counterfeiters, are being quite opportunistic, using this trade war, using a lot of the disinformation that's out there to their opportunity to claim that most of these products or many of these products are made in China, luxury goods in particular, and then simply shipped back to France or Spain, Italy to be labeled. Now, we know this is untrue because there are really strict standards, not only in the companies that represent these goods, but also in the countries. For example, we know that in Europe, so that these ideas of made in France, made in Spain, and made in Italy, for example, can't be abused, there are certain laws that have been put in place, ensuring that companies do not misrepresent the country brand. So, for example, in France, at least 45% of the main product, the product costs, the production costs need to happen in France in order for you to label it made in France. Particularly, these videos have also spoken about things like an Hermès Birkin, which we know is made in a specific factory. There's only one factory which makes it in France, and only one artisan works on each bag. So that the claim that these products are simply made in China and then shipped there for labeling is completely false. And in fact, it's trying to promote the idea of buying essentially counterfeit products directly from China, saying that it's the same thing at the end of the day, so why not support the original manufacturers, when in fact it's incredibly false and misleading.
While that may be the case, their ultimate aim here is to destabilize the United States in and amidst that tariff situation that we're currently seeing, and that seems to be working nonetheless. So do you feel that consumers will look at it and say, well, if I can get something similar for less than half, basically a fraction of the price that it is at Hermès Birkin bag is ultimately, why not?
Yeah, I mean, my theory on what's happening here is that China is really showing, and these TikTok and social media companies are really showing, look what happens when we don't moderate the content that is put onto TikTok. Look how much disinformation can spread without us moderating, without us playing together. And that's exactly what's happening. This isn't a new thing. These counterfeiters, these fake goods have existed all along. And it's now just the idea that they have lifted or have stopped moderating this content as strictly as they did, and it's proliferated, creating this false narrative that from a consumer's point of view, you're buying the same product. You're just buying a product that's cheaper. But in fact, it's not the case. It's not only that, an Hermès Birkin is made in France that makes it valuable. It's not only that it's made by an artisan, that there are strict quality controls, excuse me, and things like that. But what we have to remember is that the counterfeiting industry it's not a victimless crime. A lot of the time, these counterfeiters, which they're promoting in these videos, are linked to notorious activity like gangs, drug-related trafficking, money laundering, a whole bunch of other crimes. So by letting this misinformation spread, it's not just a case of, get the same product, same quality for a bit cheaper. You're actually supporting other crimes down the line.
So what does this mean for the luxury sector then? I mean, already we've seen, for example, Hermès's value actually surpass that of LVMH, which of course makes Louis Vuitton as well as Moet and Hennessy items as well. But Hermès now, meaning that the uber rich, and I say uber rich here, surpassing ultimately just we're going to just say the rich, which means that there just seems to be a contrast sort of happening in this sector entirely. What exactly is happening in the luxury sector on the back of these tariffs?
Well, there's a lot of instability in the luxury sector because of the uncertainty. Remember, the luxury sector is always going to price their items, at a base. So what you're buying and manufacturing it for in Europe. Now, this becomes very difficult with the higher tariffs. It means that in countries like the United States and others, the prices are going to increase. And we're talking about consumers that are used to traveling. So if we have a consumer that's used to traveling and they know they can get the same item a bit cheaper in Europe than they can in their home country, well, they're going to hold off that spend. It's going to lower the demand. That spend might go to other products in the meantime, lowering the overall demand for luxury goods. So there's a huge instability that's here. This is already on softening demand in the luxury sector over the past couple of years. LVMH struggling to draw demand from China, softening demand in the United States. So for certain, there is definitely going to be some volatility in the market based on these tariffs and based on this trade war that's imminent.
Yeah, and I mean, if one takes a look at brands like Gucci, right, the owners of Gucci, Kering, they've kind of really struggled of late as well because the market just seems to be losing its impetus. And that's just because of spending then, particularly out of China. Is the direction of China's spend in luxury changing the luxury environment as a whole? And how much are you seeing of that very same phenomenon in South Africa?
100%. I think that luxury companies were over bullish on the East to a certain extent. They were betting on the East for a lot of their growth. They were really seeing this as, the frontier market for the long-term future. And that hasn't really panned out.